Hey, hello everybody. Is you all enjoying that cold weather? I've been looking at some of the gaming streams on chat, and people on there are talking about how cold it is. People up in Wisconsin and New York, this is kind of like the big news right now. We're at a relatively warm 27 right now, but I've got it up to 74 inside, so I think I'm doing pretty well here. Okay, let's head to the charts. There we go. This is looking at the south central U.S., and we can see temperatures in the teens and 20s. We have 25 at DFW right now, 36 in Houston, so not too bad on the Gulf Coast. We've had the benefit of modification of the air mass. That couple of days that it spent sitting up in the northern U.S., up in this region, that really helped out quite a bit, and that kept us from getting the big shock of the coldest air. However, up north, it's a different story. Pretty much everywhere north of, around Columbus, north of, let's see here, north of St. Louis, and pretty much north of the I-70 corridor, everything is below zero. So we got -3 in Minneapolis, -2 in Chicago, and -3 at Indianapolis. And still quite cold in the high plains. We'll move the window out there and let's see. Yeah, this area has been pretty cold the past few days and still showing a lot of -20s in this area right here. So let me find the tail end of the front. Pretty warm there in the Rockies. 45 at Buena Vista. That's almost, with that sun that they get there, that's almost jacket weather there. But it looks like the front is pretty much against the front range right there. And on up towards the Gillette and Bozeman area. And then probably running something like that right there. It looks like it's come through some of the passes in northwestern Montana. Out west it is pretty mild. 56 at Tonopah, very warm. Area 51 there, looking at about probably 58, and 61 at Vegas. And the San Joaquin Valley does appear to be picking up a little bit of stratus and fog there. Dew points up to the 40s in that region. All right, let's go ahead and look at the centralized products. Radar graphics showing not much weather going on. Let me take a quick look at the stream, see how we're showing up here. Only dropped 138 frames. That's good. Okay, I think we're doing okay here. I don't see any buffering going on at this time. So let's check out the thickness and isobars. So now we've pretty much got cold air all the way from Canada down to the eastern U.S. and out into the Gulf of Mexico. And the leading edge of the front runs from the Bahamas through Cuba and all the way down to Mexico. And it's against the Sierra Madre Oriental there. And then on up towards Canada like that. And we've got a secondary front probably up in this region right here, Oregon, so we'll take a look at the chart, see if there's an air mass up here that's kind of cold. But one area I did want to show you is down in Mexico. When we get these pushes of cold air going straight south, we get some very interesting weather in Mexico. So a lot of good onshore flow in this region here. Temperatures down in the 50s, which is pretty significant because you're talking about this being like 400, 500 miles south of Texas. This is about 19, 20 degrees north, and that's not even a temperature up in the mountains. That's down at sea level. So that is a very cold day for that region. And we're picking up those pass winds, gusting up to 32, and that's usually when we get the high winds ducting through this pass right here in Mexico, and that tends to get a lot of blowing dust and wind damage in that region. And then on the other side, it looks like a little bit of adiabatic warming in some of the areas here. Just a little bit. Okay, elsewhere, let's see. We'll take a look at the 300 millibar chart. Let me see if I have a newer graphic here. Yep, looks like we do. So this is showing the long wave troughing on the east coast right here, and long wave ridging on the west coast, keeping things kind of mild in that area right here. Let's use red for the ridging and blue for the troughing. There we go. And in between, we've got northwest flow. And that's due to the Hudson Bay and eastern Canada area being very cold and relatively warm on the west coast, so in between, good jet stream winds through that area. The subtropical jet does not look to be too active. It looks like maybe a piece of it here in Florida. 80 knot winds in that area, maybe a little bit of coupling around Jacksonville, but the main polar front jet running from about Omaha to around Norfolk. Temperatures this morning look like this right here. Looks like the cold spot was Quebec, minus 37. Looks like northeast of North Bay. And looks like minus 38 here at, looks like northeast of Miles City. So yeah, a lot of that cold air still hanging on. And remember to, when we try to assess how severe that cold air is, we like to look at the soundings. So we're going to check that out also. So that'll give us an idea if there's more of this cold air on tap coming southward. Down in Texas, 18 there at DFW, 26 at San Antonio, and let's check out Florida. They're starting to get some of the cold air in that region. So 38 up in the Panhandle, 26 up around, I think that's the Enterprise area. And then Miami's still at 60. They haven't gotten the cold air itself coming into that region yet. And then the highs looked like this today. 80 degrees at Miami and 30 for DFW. And then we go up north, 1 degree at Chicago. And anywhere north and northwest of that, it's pretty much below freezing. There's the cold air on the potential temperature map. Looks like the gradient out in the high plains is starting to break up a little bit, so that's a sign of maybe a little bit of erosion of the air mass, and we can see the winds are showing up southwesterly in this region. So that's indicative of maybe a little bit of circulation like this. So looks like the high pressure area is moving out to Iowa and Minnesota and Missouri out in that area. So we're starting to get a little bit of the downslope starting in the high plains, and that's the first step before we get the erosion completely of all the cold air. Okay, let's check out the satellite, and you know what that means. We'll be taking a look at the chat. Okay, let's see here. What do we got going on in chat? Pretty good crowd for the first of the year. I'm going to have to skim through a lot of this, but let's see here. Jeff Krob is first. Carl Berghoff also joining us. Mr. Manlet wondering about severe weather season. Carl Berghoff expecting active La Nina weather. Sue M is reporting wind chills tonight, minus 25. Tom J is here, and Electric Dog. Mr. Manlet talking about wind chills also. Burl H reporting minus 4 there at Iowa City, Iowa. Jeff Krob, 9 degrees in Eastern Shore, Maryland. Justin Pulliam is with us, and Fun with Tech. Ron Chalfant. We've got Alexi and Ryan Toomey's there. Wise Wolfie, being from the north, the cold in Houston is nostalgic. Tom J doesn't want to know. You don't want to know the weather in Las Cruces. Bet he's enjoying some very nice weather in that area. I don't think that cold air has crossed over the mountains. In fact, yeah, Las Cruces is located right here. And I can see the western edge of the cold air showing up very well on this infrared imagery. So the cold air is pretty much banked up in the high plains right here, but has not crossed over the mountains in New Mexico there. 23 in Bell County, where Lexi is. Mr. Mamlet trying to upload a surface chart. Ryan Toomey's freezing start to the new year. Adam Davis reporting 5 degrees in Clarion, Pennsylvania. Sue M says, hit the like button. Ron Chalfont up in the mountains there, 49 at Crestline. And just going very quickly through here, Jeff Krob was seeing a little bit of buffering earlier. Jeff Krob talking about the positive PNA pattern. Ron Chalfont drove south from Sacramento, light fog in the San Joaquin Valley. Yeah, that might be a good time to segue into that. Of course, the first thing I need to do is try to find it. I've got usually about 48 windows open, so that can sometimes be an issue. So let me check through here real quick. Hang on. Okay, anyway, I know I had it up here. Yeah, there it is. Okay. So we'll head out west and we'll get a look at that pattern there in the San Joaquin Valley. It looks like it broke up a little bit later during the day. Let me see if I can pull up a different chart from a different time. I guess it's kind of a light fog in that region. Yeah, this is showing up January 1st of 2018 there. Yeah, you can see that right there. I guess what we have is kind of a hazy fog. And that's kind of in this area right here. In fact, yeah, it does look a little bit thicker in this area right here, up near Stockton. And let's check it out down around Los Angeles. Let me see if I can zoom that in. Yeah, it's got kind of a brownish color there, so yeah, in fact, I can kind of see the texture on the cloud right in this area here, so it's very interesting. It's looks a little bit hazier than I figured it would. Typically, fog has got a pattern kind of like this, very high albedo. And wow, the caprock's showing up pretty well. Looks like there's been a little bit of snow on the Llano Estacado there, south of Amarillo. And you are probably going to see a little bit of buffering when I go through on this NASA Worldview. That's normal. I'll try to keep it to a minimum here. But if I go down to Mexico, you can kind of see the effect of all the onshore flow and all the polar air banked up against the mountains here in Mexico. And there's the gap of Mexico right there, where they're getting the very strong winds coming through that region here. Looks like a little bit of maybe the subtropical jet is down here. You see the texture on that cloud right there? I think we might be looking at something like that for a jet stream orientation, subtropical jet down in that region. Okay, so that's probably enough of messing with the satellite photo. I want to keep the buffering down. There's the temperature anomaly for this afternoon. Looking at conditions minus 20 Celsius, 20 Celsius degrees below normal. That's going to be about 30 Fahrenheit. So that's hitting Indiana and Illinois very hard this afternoon and evening. I did want to go to some of the other satellite photos over here, the GOES imagery. One thing that's pretty cool about this cold air mass is you can really see the lakes out in this region right here, especially in Texas where the lakes are very warm. They're running probably about water temperatures about 50 to probably in the 50s Fahrenheit. So they're showing up very well with these 20s and 30s and teens air temperatures. Let me see if I can zoom that in here. Yeah, so there's the lakes, and we can especially see even some of the rivers there in Alabama here. And one other cool feature up north, this is very unusual. See this feature here? That is, that's cloud. And the cloud is showing up warmer than the ground instead of colder, which is unusual. See, it just looks kind of like if we had normal infrared imagery up, this would show as kind of a dark plume against a white background. And so this is probably some stratus or stratocumulus moving northeast across a relatively clear area, some snowpack on the ground there. And you can tell that this is some sort of cloud layer because of the terrain in the lakes. Well, the lakes aren't going to show up very well, but the terrain kind of disappears as that cloud moves overhead. So around here you can pick out the terrain very well, but under here it's very featureless. So maybe we can pick that out in the satellite imagery. This is another way we can look at that cloud material. Yeah, so it's going to be located right around here. And if I kind of animate this, you can kind of see it moving right there. So this is some of that low cloud moving northeast and covering up the terrain in that region. Okay, anything else to look at? Let's zoom that back out a little bit. Well, you can definitely see where the snow and the cold temperatures are up there in the Midwest. And looking at the water, the water vapor imagery, looks like we're getting a little bit of the Pineapple Express approaching the southwestern U.S. So let me run that forward. We're going to look at the precipitable water in a bit. And there's that plume right there. That's moisture coming northeast towards Baja California and the southwestern U.S. there. So the west coast starting to get a little bit active here coming up over the next day or two. So we'll go ahead and head into the charts, and we'll look at that precipitable water. And you can see the higher values down here. We've got about 2 inches just off the corner. And then this is going to be about 1 inch. And this is approaching the California coast. See, here it is coming up towards Baja California the next couple of days. And it looks like it gets picked up by this system off the coast. And that will be coming into Southern California around the 4th. So that's going to be in about 3 days here, around Thursday. Looks like another surge coming in later during the week, during the weekend, Sunday, Monday. And, wow, over here, Texas. So we got another surge coming up into Texas. Let's see when that hits. It's going to be starting Friday and Saturday. So by Sunday and Monday, we're going to see 1 inch precipitable water in East Texas and Arkansas. And even some 2 inch breaking out. So that's going to mean a good chance of showers and thunderstorms around the 8th and 9th. Then we can see the next surge pushing out that moisture. Some of it comes back around the 12th. So we're getting into maybe a little bit of a spring-like pattern here around the middle of the month here, as we approach the middle of the month. All right, let's look at the upper air chart. We've pointed out that ridge on the west coast here and the trough on the east coast. In between, jet stream bringing the rest of that cold air down, and then over the next few days, looks like that ridge out to the west is kind of keeping this Pacific system at bay for the most part. So things will be kind of quiet over the next week. Then it looks like some of the jet stream energy comes across on the 6th and 7th. California getting active there. And then the jet stream really picks up on the Central Plains and Southern Rockies around the 7th and 8th. So this will probably be when our precip chances come up towards the 9th. And there it goes into the southeast U.S. Pretty good trough. However, one thing that you can see here is the long wave pattern pretty much entrenched on the eastern U.S. and the Hudson Bay area. So it looks like things will stay kind of cold on the east coast, a little more indeterminate in the central U.S. And then things start to get a little bit more zonal towards the very end, around the 16th and 17th. Kind of an indication here of a little bit of a zonal pattern with a couple waves moving across this region right here. So that'll probably be a bit of a pattern shift coming in for about 2 weeks from now. So we'll go ahead and put it together here and check out the forecast. Big 1048 millibar high continuing to move southeast, very slow progression. It's going to be a couple of cold nights in the central and eastern U.S. And it looks like by the 3rd, on Wednesday, most of the high pressure is gone. Maybe one little reinforcement coming in from Manitoba. A little bit of an Alberta clipper coming south. So there's a little bit of that leftover high pressure there in Texas on the 3rd. And that's going to be it for the Arctic air, I think. A little bit of a nor'easter coming up the coast. So we'll keep an eye on that. But it looks like that's going to mostly be offshore. And let's see here. It looks like, yeah, maybe a little bit of a reinforcing shot of cold air on the 4th and 5th. But probably not quite as severe. Then we get the Gulf starting to open up here around the 5th. So the high plains pulling up some southerly flow, and then we start looking out to the west there in the Pacific. California picking up some rain, and also Oregon and Washington. Looks like another surge of cold air coming through the Great Lakes area. And let's see here. This is the 8th and 9th. Cold front coming south. And that moves quickly to the east. There it is right there. I didn't see much interaction in Texas with that moisture. Let me run through here real quick. Yeah, I mean, we're showing very high precipitable water in Texas and Louisiana, but as you saw here, the GFS keeping most of the precip up in the Mississippi River Valley, not in Texas. I guess we're probably capped. And then in behind that, cold air building in, so it looks like it's cold once again. We're under that long wave pattern. So things will stay pretty cool here, getting towards mid-month. Here comes a Pacific system around the 12th. That interacts with the next cold surge. A little bit of mixed wintry weather in Illinois and Missouri there, and possibly even Texas on the 14th. More cold weather, 1030, 1040 millibar high for the 16th. And then I think things may start moderating a little bit with the flow becoming more zonal here. Okay, yeah, 27 degrees here, pretty cold night. Very clear. Let me take a look at the chat. Let me give you the satellite photo here. Okay. David Holcomb joining us, delivering pizza. Yeah, I ordered some Domino's a couple of days ago, and that was some of the best Domino's pizza I've had in a while. They really did a good job. I'm going to have to go back and get some of that pizza myself here in the next couple of days. Pizza goes really good with this kind of weather. Mr. Manlett talking about he's got a nice basement there. Dwayne Ward, 9 degrees in Salisbury, Maryland. Yeah, Tim doesn't talk much about PNA, PDO. Yeah, that's starting to get into climatology a bit, and I don't like covering that a whole lot because that's not really my specialty area. I tend to focus mostly on the short and, you know, the next week or two. You know, I try not to get myself trapped into talking about, you know, what's going to happen over the next month or two, because then people start looking for predictions of severe weather, and I really don't think there's a good way to know that. But maybe sometime we can cover some of the basics here. I know I've got some of that in my storm chasing handbook, and I think in weather analysis and forecasting I go over some of that. Jeff Krob works at NOAA, Wallops Island. Very good. I think they used to do balloon launches there back in the 90s. And let's see here. Dwayne Ward, 6-month-old chocolate lab, is in the snow. Didn't know what to make of it at first. Yeah, that's... I remember my dog's first interaction with snow. Always pretty entertaining there. What's going on with my chat here? Yeah, look what my chat's doing. Oh, it's not doing it now. It was kind of like flashing. Yeah, there it is. It's doing it again. It's flashing back and forth. You know, I can't read that. Okay. Yeah, some of YouTube is kind of buggy here, some of the code they use. Time for some hot chocolate, Adam Davis. Sue M says, great webcast. Jeff Krob, still a Rayab station. Okay, very good. And Carl Burkhoff says, thanks, good night. And Dwayne Ward mentioning the sounding rockets. Okay. Well, thanks, everybody. Appreciate you all joining. And let me get the closeout music here. Turn down my speakers so there's no feedback. And hopefully we can start adding in some new stuff in these broadcasts. I'm looking for some new stuff, kind of like what we did with the low and high temperatures and that kind of thing. Anyway, have a good evening, and we will talk to you tomorrow. Take care.